Hi, and welcome to VisibilOT, a podcast dedicated to raising awareness, providing education, and advocating for individuals with invisible disabilities and chronic conditions. I'm your host, Lisa, and I'm passionate about providing education and support for individuals and healthcare providers alike to bring visibility to an often misunderstood population. Before we get started, I want to emphasize that the information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical or therapeutic advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider for personal medical concerns. Today's episode is all about navigating the holiday season with a chronic illness. For many, the holidays are a time of joy and celebration and connection. But for those with chronic conditions, they can be overwhelming, bringing excess stress and exhaustion. We're going to talk about practical ways to conserve energy, manage holiday obligations, and set boundaries so you can enjoy the season without sacrificing your health. Whether you're dealing with a chronic condition or looking to better support someone who is, this episode is for you. So grab your cozy holiday beverage, my favorite is hot chocolate with the mini marshmallows, and settle in. Let's dive in how to make this holiday season work for you. This is actually my second take recording this episode, and I had to go back in and re-record because the first time through was way too positive. And I know that sounds silly because I think personally a positive mindset is really important. But the truth is that chronic illness is hard. Invisible disabilities are hard. And the holiday seasons can make it even harder, especially towards the end of the year when everyone's posting the big updates and reflections on what they did all year. I just need you to know that if all you did this year was make it through, that's okay too. Sometimes just taking care of ourselves can be a full-time job, and it's a completely valid use of time. So yes, positivity can be a great tool, and I typically prefer to keep a positive outlook in life. But it's also okay to, for lack of a better term, embrace the suckiness of it all sometimes. Recognize that it's okay to be disappointed about having to miss events that you didn't have the energy for, or maybe not see friends that you didn't have the energy to go see because you had to prioritize yourself. Saying no to things that we wanted to do isn't fun. And it's necessary sometimes, and it's frustrating, and it's hard, and that's okay. So I want to begin by recognizing that the holidays can bring a mix of emotions. On one hand, there's the joy of connecting with loved ones and indulging in traditions, and the holiday time can be beautiful. I love driving around, looking at Christmas lights, seeing sprinkling of snow on the ground. But on the other hand, there's a lot of pressure. There's shopping for gifts, cooking elaborate meals, cleaning, decorating, attending events. And now let's layer chronic illness into the equation. Tasks that might seem simple or routine to others, like wrapping presents or preparing a dish or even just attending a party, can feel monumental when you're managing pain, fatigue, or other symptoms. And because of this, one of the most important concepts for managing holiday stress with a chronic illness is understanding that your energy is a limited resource. Spoon theory helps to explain this. Think of each spoon as a unit of energy. Everyday tasks like showering, getting dressed, or cooking uses up spoons. Cooking actually does use up real-life spoons in real life, but I digress. During the holidays, non-routine events like traveling or hosting often demand even more. And the thing is, once you've used up your spoons, they're gone. You can't just find more somewhere. And pushing beyond that limit can lead to flare-ups and symptom exacerbation or even relapses. Holidays also frequently pull us out of what's called our energy envelope, or the amount of energy we can safely use without triggering a downturn. According to experts on conditions like ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, staying within your energy envelope is essential for avoiding setbacks. Special events, like holiday celebrations, can easily disrupt this balance. But with intentional planning and pacing, you can still find little ways to enjoy the season while minimizing the cost to your health. So let's shift our mindset a little bit. We live in a very do everything culture. And I don't know about you, but I know I can feel ashamed sometimes when I'm not able to do all the things that I wanted to do or maybe that other people expect me to do. But the goal here is to focus on what truly matters, those activities and traditions that bring you the most joy while still prioritizing your health and finding balance in the mix. So, how do we do that? Well, boundaries can be one of the most powerful tools we have when it comes to managing holiday stress and protecting our energy. But let's be real, boundaries are not always easy to set. I am a classic example of that. I love saying yes to everything. I don't like to disappoint other people or miss out. What's that little term they use now? FOMO, the fear of missing out. I get that, and that's a normal thing to experience. But sometimes boundaries are important, and we have to set them even when it's uncomfortable. And I kind of had to reframe my mindset on boundaries because to me, setting a boundary seemed like a kind of isolating act. I had to realize that setting boundaries is not isolating or rude or unkind, but it's about creating space for your own health and well-being so that you're able to actually show up better for the things that matter most. A few tips that I really try to remember when setting boundaries is number one, to be clear and honest. When you're declining an invitation or setting a limit, you don't owe anyone a detailed explanation. A simple but kind response can go a long way. Like, thank you so much for inviting me, but I won't be able to make it this year. Or, I'd love to join for a little while, but I need to leave early to do XYZ. How much you want to disclose about that is up to you. But being clear and honest and upfront is great. And on the same kind of wavelength, number two, communicating ahead of time. So if you've maybe committed to a particular event that you know might be overwhelming, see if you can talk to the host or organizer ahead of time. Share your needs and your preferences. Ask if it's okay to maybe bring a quiet activity or step aside to take a break during a gathering. Or just say, I might need to step away at some point to rest. Thank you for understanding. And that's not to say it's not uncomfortable or awkward sometimes to ask for the accommodations that we need. It definitely is. I wanted to help with dishes at Thanksgiving and pulled up a folding chair to sit in while I wash and dry, and I definitely got some strange looks. But that's okay. Sometimes we know what's best for us and our bodies and what we need to do, and sometimes you just gotta embrace the awkwardness and do it. My third important boundary that I like to focus on is limiting commitments. It is very tempting to say yes to everything, but remember that every yes is also a no to your energy reserves, and we know that those energy reserves are so important. Think about which events, traditions, and activities are most important to you and focus on those and try to let go of the rest. Not the rest, like resting, because that's important. I mean the rest, like all the other things that you might get invited to that you don't really want to go to, but maybe you just don't want to disappoint people. Let them go. And my fourth boundary setting tip is the importance of delegating and asking for help. And I get it. I hate asking for help. I was always a very independent, do-it-yourself kind of gal, so asking for help can be uncomfortable for me sometimes. But you don't have to do it all yourself. And it's taken some time to realize that, but it's very important. If you're hosting an event, maybe you want to get people together, but consider making it a potluck so that you don't have to cook everything yourself. If you're attending an event, ask a family member or a friend for help with transportation or accommodations. A lot of times people are happy to help, they just need to know how. And it's important for us to have those conversations and ask for help in the way that's actually beneficial to us, because a lot of times people will try to help and it will come across as the opposite of helpful. And I have a whole episode coming on that soon, so stay tuned. And again, boundaries are not about shutting people out. It's about creating a framework to help you thrive. By setting limits, you're honoring both yourself and the relationships that you value by showing up in a way that's both sustainable and authentic. So, why are we setting boundaries? Well, ultimately, it is to help conserve our energy, because energy conservation is at the heart of managing the holidays with a chronic condition. And it's especially crucial during non-routine events, or what the MECFS and Fibromyalgia Self-Help Group has outlined on their website as special events. These are activities outside of your usual routine, like holiday gatherings, traveling, or hosting guests, that require extra energy and planning to navigate successfully. This website has great tools for navigating these special events, and I'll be sharing some of them with you today. First strategy we're going to talk about for managing special events is taking extra rest before, during, and after an event. Think of rest as your secret weapon. Before a special event, rest more than usual to store up energy. During the event, plan for breaks, whether that's stepping away for a quiet moment or lying down. And afterwards, give yourself time for recovery. A good rule of thumb is to double your usual rest periods for these special occasions. We also want to plan in detail, and this one can be tricky because planning can take up precious energy as well. So if you have a trusted individual to help you with this, that can be great. But preparation is key. If you're traveling, plan out each day in advance, including alternatives if your energy doesn't hold up. If you're hosting, like we talked about earlier, delegate tasks and consider scaling back. And adjustments or modifications like leaving an event early or stepping away for a rest break can make a huge difference. The website I mentioned earlier has a free PDF tool to help plan and organize actions you need to take before, during, and after a special event to help stay within your energy envelope. And I'll link the PDF in the show notes. And the third special event strategy is discussing your plan with others. Share your needs with the people involved. Let them know how much you can realistically participate in and what support you might need. Clear communication helps set expectations and fosters understanding. And in addition to these 3 important special event management strategies, I'd like to share just some additional energy conservation tips. I know we've talked a lot about prioritizing, and one of my very favorite tips is to prioritize tasks. Ask yourself, what's truly important this holiday season, and focus on those things. It can also be really helpful to see how an activity can be modified for energy conservation. For example, one of my favorite holiday traditions has always been baking and decorating holiday cookies. And I used to really like baking cookies from scratch, but sometimes I don't have the energy for all that, so I'll get some pre-made dough, bake those, and decorate with some pre-made frosting and sprinkles. Does it taste quite the same? Maybe not, but it helps me still participate in a tradition that I really enjoy, and I get to eat cookies, so win-win. And it helps me conserve very important energy. And sometimes that's still too much. So I'll just buy some beautiful cookies from a nice bakery and enjoy those. Another tip is to break big tasks into smaller steps, or what is often referred to as chunking. I like saying chunking because it's a fun word. But basically, this involves spreading out really large tasks, like wrapping gifts or decorating the house, into smaller, more manageable pieces. So instead of wrapping every single gift you bought for everyone for all of Christmas on one day, maybe wrap 1 or 2 gifts per day. Or instead of dragging out every single holiday decoration from the garage, hauling everything inside and decorating the whole house in one go, maybe do a room at a time, or just a little bit here and there. Listen to your body and do what it's asking. Another tip can be to create or identify a quiet rest space. I like to escape to my car sometimes, where I have a snuggly blanket and some earplugs, and an eye mask, so if I need to take a break during an event or just lay down for a minute and recharge, I have a space that I can do that. Just be sure to tell a friend or the host or somebody where you're going, because it can be alarming when people disappear into thin air. Apparently. Ask me how I know. Another tip is to use those adaptive tools. They are there for a reason. Like I mentioned earlier, if you need to sit down while you're helping with dishes, that's okay. Or if you use a grabber for hanging ornaments so you're not climbing up and down a ladder, that's great too. And this last little tip might be self-explanatory, but say no when you need to say no. And again, I know, it can be hard. I don't like saying no either, but sometimes the best way to conserve our energy is simply by opting out. Remember, no matter what anyone says, rest is productive. It allows you to show up for yourself and be present for what matters most. And finally, don't forget about your self-care. Dedicate time to the activities that help you recharge, whether that's reading a book or meditating, doing breathing exercises, or even just enjoying a cup of tea. One of my favorite self-care tips as someone who loves giving gifts is to utilize services that will deliver your pre-wrapped gift for you. A lot of places like Amazon and Etsy often have this as an option, and it can be a lifesaver. Another thing I love to do is focus on those small, meaningful moments. You don't need grand gestures or grand activities to make the holidays meaningful, even though sometimes it might be what we want to do. It's not what currently is serving our body and our needs best. So sometimes I really like to focus on the small, simple joys like curling up in holiday PJs and watching a movie, or just stepping outside and admiring the lights in your neighborhood. Like we mentioned earlier, chronic illness can be incredibly challenging, and especially during the holidays, and it's okay to feel frustration, but I find that taking the time to appreciate the little things and practice gratitude for at least the things that I am able to do and participate in can make all the difference in the world. And remember, you have permission to let go of the traditions that no longer serve you and to create new ones that align with your current needs. I'm wishing all of you a happy and restful holiday season, and I can't thank you enough for tuning in with me. Thank you so much for joining me today on VisibilOT. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit from these strategies. For more insights and tips, follow me on Instagram at VisibilOT, that's VisibilOT, and don't forget to subscribe to the VisibilOT podcast to stay connected. Please consider taking the time to leave a review or rating on whatever platform you're listening on. And until next time, take care and stay visible.